primeiro dia do Wave Festival terminou agora há pouco. Do meu lado está aqui o Kemp-Robertson, da Contagious, e ele falou sobre o painel Substituindo Reach and Frequency, Engagement. Ele falou trouxe alguns conceitos defendidos pela revista, eu vou pedir para ele repeti-los. Mr. Kemp-Robertson, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. I want to know more about the 5% Club. You explained that it's a new concept.
Yeah, well, we just think that advertising has traditionally behaved, very much like Madison Avenue, which almost dates back to the 60s in terms of how it's worked and how agencies have been structured. And what we're saying is that advertising now needs to behave more like Silicon Valley than Madison Avenue. And by that, that's this sort of concept of failing forward fast. Which means taking risks. So what we're saying is if you can try and convince your clients, say, okay, you have this media budget, if you can take just 5%, it could be any figure, but we just think 5% is a reasonable amount, and just take 5% of your media budget and just put it into things that you wouldn't normally do. Take risks, have conversations with companies and technologists and universities and all these weird and wonderful people that you wouldn't normally come into contact with, and just start doing things with technology and innovation and just trying things and testing things. Sometimes they'll work and you'll end up with a really interesting piece of intellectual property or a new piece of technology, or really connect and engage with an audience, or sometimes they'll fail, but that's why we're saying that's the whole kind of spirit of Silicon Valley, is by taking risks and learning from your mistakes, you actually become more creative.
And which another modern concept that you consider important to the brands?
Well, the main sort of theme of my speech today was projects, not campaigns. And by that, we just mean that almost the advertising agency is almost like falling behind the audience. The audience has been ahead of the advertiser for a long time now in terms of the content that they create, how they share content and pass it on, the media that they consume. And the advertising industry is sort of finally catching up. But once you start releasing control, the old broadcast message, the analog message of advertising doesn't work anymore. It's much more about, two-way conversation and dialogue rather than monologue. But once you do that, once the genie is out of the bottle and the consumer is king, you can't really push out that kind of, 12-week media plan, that hermetically sealed advertising campaign, because it doesn't work. People just see straight through it. So what we're saying is that you should engage in projects rather than campaigns, and by that, that's something that doesn't necessarily have a beginning, a middle or an end. It's almost like get your brand around a cause.